Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. In the previous video, we have shown how to lock the Gradle files for your Android applications repository so that applications build consistently across multiple machines without failing. But it now slightly complicates if at all you want to introduce any new library or just want to increase the version of the library that you are already using. But you have to be familiar with what is the slightly new procedure or a protocol that you have to follow while doing these things. So in this video, we will quickly go through those things, and by the end of it, probably I will try to answer some of the questions that you might have when working with this new procedure. So without much further ado, let's get into the demo. So this is the same project that we will be updating, and if you recall, last time we basically introduced TOML file which contains all the versions and everything. Now what happens if you want to increase or update the version of a particular library that you are working with? Let's take, for example, Retrofit, which is a very commonly popularly used library or a framework in Android application development for making network calls or API calls. Instead of this 9, I want to use 10. If I just update it, will it work perfectly fine? Let us see what happens. Now let me go to the terminal here and let me try to clean the application. That seems to be working fine. And then let me do the build now. And immediately you will see that there is a problem. The build failed. And if you just go through the error that it is giving, you can see that could not resolve retrofit strictly 2.9.0. So the Gradle log file that we introduced is enforcing the version adherence to 2.9.0, and you cannot directly come here in the TOML file and start updating the version. Now, how do I solve this particular problem? All you will have to do is regenerate your log files. So what that basically means is, after you have updated version for a particular library, you can come back here and then once again write the Gradle commands to generate the log files. So that is Gradle dependencies -write logs. This will generate the Gradle settings log file, and then you will have to execute another command which is app dependencies write logs. And if I execute this, once again the log files will get updated. What do I mean by that? If you see here, the existing Gradle log file and lib.version.toml file, those will get updated to the latest new version that you have introduced. If I go back and clean and assemble it, it should work perfectly fine. And as you can see, the build got done successfully. So that's one problem resolved. Now there is another problem that we have to solve. How do I introduce a new library? Because that is a little bit more than just updating the version number of an existing framework. We will introduce, for example, a library called Lottie. Lottie is a very commonly used library for doing animations in Android. I actually have a video where I talk about how to integrate Lottie. So if at all you are interested, you can go through that. But let me just introduce the Lottie library. So the first thing that you will have to do is go to the top of your TOML file. In the TOML file is basically versions. So what I can do is I can come here and I will write, just for my understanding purpose, these are animation libraries, and let me introduce Lottie with version 6.1.0. When you are seeing, there might be some newer version of the library, but I am going ahead with this one. And later I will have to add the Lottie library under the libraries section. So let me just come down here under the libraries. I can write Lottie compose com Airbnb Android, Lottie compose, and Lottie. Why you are seeing Airbnb here? Because the library is from Airbnb. And what is the version reference? The Lottie that you just introduced, that is 6.1.0. So that is what the version is going to be used. And then you can come down to the bottom, that is bundles. And after testing, let me introduce another one, that is animation. And this is a array of Lottie compose and Lottie Android. That's it. So with this, we are actually done with editing the TOML file, and you can see here the animation bundle looks unused. it doesn't look like testing. So that means this is not yet being referenced in the Gradle file. So we will have to put it in the Gradle file as well. So now let me open the application build Gradle file, and let's come down here and introduce the reference to the Lottie. And how do we do that? It is implementation, and if you recall, it comes under libs.bundles animation, and we will have to just sync this. And now let me close back and open the terminal. Here, since we have modified the TOML file and the build Gradle file, we will have to once again generate the log files. Let me clean the application and then build the application. Now it should build perfectly fine. That's it. So this is how you introduce any new library to an existing application. I'm pretty sure you might be having a lot of questions like this particular TOML file that we are talking about. This looks very complicated, and I had mentioned in the previous video that this will have to be written manually by your leads or somebody who is leading the project to ensure that everybody in the team is basically using the same version, same settings and everything. But you might say that, Anil, this is too much of a work. Writing this particular TOML file manually is going to be very tedious job and a laborious job. Is there any other option? Well, there is no other option. You will have to write this particular TOML file, but there are ways to expedite or fasten this particular process. One is there are a lot of plugins that are available in Android Studio. Most of them are free. You can just search for the Gradle lock plugin, which will help you to generate this particular TOML file. So you don't have to manually write it. It will basically go through the project, scan it and understand the dependencies, and then it will generate this particular TOML file. There is another better option that is nowadays it is possible. You can ask AI to generate this particular file. If you are using Copilot or Windsurf or Cursor, ask it to go through the repository and generate the TOML file. Of course, you will have to do the vetting part because what it might generate, there might be some mistakes, and you will have to ensure that there are no such mistakes. Then there might be other questions like if you see in our TOML file, everywhere the version number are very strict versions. There is 1.8.0, 2.7.0, 2.3.0. The dynamic versioning, you can't see it here. What do I mean by dynamic versioning? Something like 2.3 plus or 2 plus. In normal Gradle file, you would have written like that. So can I write or can't I write the dynamic versioning with the TOML file? The answer is no, don't do that. When you decide to use TOML file, dynamic versioning should not be adopted. You have to strictly adhere to a particular version numbers. And whenever you are writing versions in the TOML file, write the strict versions that you want to adhere to. So that's it about how to work with locked Gradle files for your project. In the next video, we will meet with another new topic. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.